Coming to you from an undisclosed location, somewhere deep in the heart of the Santa Monica Mountains, I am your intrepid host, L.A. Marzulli. Thanks for coming here. Really appreciate it. I was just interviewed on another podcast, and I think you'll find the interview interesting. But first, a word from our very trusted sponsor. In a recent clinical trial this year, a woman who took 2.5 grams of collagen peptides daily for 8 weeks saw an average of 25% reduction in eye wrinkle depth, a 9% improvement in skin elasticity, and a 29% look in skin hydration, proving collagen can visibly strengthen and rejuvenate skin from within. That is why I use today's sponsor, BioTrust Ageless Multi-Collagen. Folks, I use it every single day. I put it in my second cup of coffee, which is really cold out of the refrigerator, mix it up really well, and I absolutely love it. BioTrust Ageless Multi-Collagen helps supercharge my skin health using 5 premium types of collagen needed to help reduce wrinkles. I've noticed smoother skin, more elasticity, more hydration, fewer fine lines, and a youthful glow. Plus, it also helps improve my joint health, bone strength, and connective tissues on top of my skin. For a limited time, you can grab a bag of BioTrust Ageless Multi-Collagen for 51% off at www.healthwithla.com. Plus, you'll also receive free VIP live health and fitness coaching for life, a free ebook titled The 14 Foods for Amazing Skin, a 60-day satisfaction guarantee, and free express shipping with your order. Once again, please go www.healthwithla.com, healthwithla.com. I want to tell you something. Since I've been taking Ageless BioTrust Ageless Multi-Collagen, and I've been doing it every day, folks, and I have noticed, I'm not making this up, I have noticed that the creepy skin under my arms and the backside of my forearm and upper arm, the lines have really decreased. It's working. So once again, www.healthwithla.com. Thank you. Check it out. Folks, we've got some great specials up right now. We've got the Run the Disclosure and our 2 films on Roswell for $29.99. That's unbelievable. That's the lowest it's ever been. Why? Because of the Age of Disclosure film that just came out. Get the word out. Share it with your friends. This book is really important. You remember, runthedisclosure.com is an interactive book. So when you go to runthedisclosure.com, interactive website, I should say, the book only has 17 runs. We are now up to run number 24. And I'm thinking maybe Age of Disclosure should be run number 25. And I think it is. So we'll get into that. So here's the interview, folks. By the way, if you're not a member, consider becoming a member. You get, right now, Black Friday coming up this next week, 50% off of everything in the store, the monthly news magazine for free, and of course, you get members-only content. Here's the interview.
Thank you guys so much for joining us. My name's Pastor Jason. I'm here with Keith, and normally we're here Sundays at 1 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, but we're here today at 10 a.m.-ish Mountain Standard Time because we have a special guest, L.A. Marzulli, that's going to be joining us here in just a second. Keith, I remember the first time I heard L.A., it was actually on Serpents and Doves podcast with Pablo Forsini, and LA was talking about the seed war. And that was the first time I'd heard that. This was a few years ago, and it blew my mind, and it was awesome. Do you remember the first time you've
I
heard
think when I was listening to Chuck Missler, gosh, I don't know how long ago, and he mentioned him.
Okay.
And then also I think he was on one of his conferences, I want to say. I heard him the first time. Yeah.
Wow.
And then a friend was big into LA, and so I've gotten some of his books and stuff. So this to me is like
awesome.
It's like it's a surreal moment.
Sure. So
fans, yeah.
We have, like we said, special guest L.A. Marzulli, author, filmmaker, ufologist, and brother in Christ. Let's go ahead and bring him on.
There we go.
L.A., thank you so much for joining us.
Great to be here, guys. Thanks so much.
Yeah. Sorry about all those technical things. We thought
those things happen.
Weird, but yeah. Cool.
You want to jump in with?
Yeah, so we're going to talk about LA's books, Rungs of Disclosure. We put his website in the show notes, in the description, and his YouTube page. So if you guys aren't following him, if you want the book, I definitely recommend it. I think gosh, this last week we've torn through this thing, right? Just looking through it, and it's awesome. Definitely awesome stuff.
It's really readable, and it's the way the chapters are laid out make it easy to navigate the book. So if you want to skip around, you can.
Mhm.
But yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. Rungs of Disclosure, check it out, lamarzulli.net.
So we want to start with Roswell, right?
Yeah, let's jump right in if that's okay, LA.
Sure, wherever you guys want to go.
What so we're in New Mexico, not, we're 3 hours from Roswell, and we're actually where we are right now is about an hour and a half from Corona, New Mexico, which is one of the main crash sites there in Roswell, outside Roswell. Can you explain what happened at Roswell in 1947? Why is that significant to UFO disclosure?
Well, it's very significant to me, and thanks for having me on, by the way. So what we have is a series of events. We have 1945, where Hiroshima and Nagasaki, those two events there, they dropped the atomic bomb on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So that's 1945. So just, a little while later, in 47, July of 47, right, you get the Roswell crash. Why Roswell? Well, Roswell was the home of the 509th Bombing Group. Why should we care? Because the 509th Bombing Group is the bombing group that dropped the atomic bomb on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Is that just a coincidence? I don't think so. And the question is, was it a deliberate crash? And we don't know. And people say, well, why would they deliberately crash a saucer? Well, why not? Right? It opens up the can of worms. We don't know whether it was deliberate or whether it was an accident. There was an electrical storm, and we know that electrical storms can wreak havoc with these things. We know that for a fact, but we also know, we actually broke the story on this in our Watches series. Robert Salas was the base commander at the Maelstrom site, intercontinental ballistic site, shooting missiles. So these are nukes, okay? And a 60-foot UFO hovered over the gate to the facility, just sat there and hovered. The guy guarding the gate was completely freaked out. Who wouldn't be? So, and it turned off all 10 intercontinental ballistic missiles. How does that work? And of course, they were debriefed. He wasn't allowed to talk about it. They signed NDAs, the whole thing. He came on the record with us in our Watches series. The reason why I bring that up, these entities, and we'll get into that in a little bit, are obsessed with nukes. Why? This is conjecture. In my opinion, they know that this is the trigger. This is what they've been waiting for. And that's the punchline, and we'll get into that further down the road. So circling back to Roswell, the 509th Bombing Group is stationed in Roswell, New Mexico. It's a skip site. The craft comes in like this. It skips at the first debris site and then flies another 17 miles, and it crashes. And that's where the bodies were found and the craft was found. When Jesse Marcel Sr. was alerted by rancher Mac Brazel, who came into Roswell with a box full of debris, going, what is this? He went to the local sheriff. Sheriff said, you better go over to the 509th, talk to Marcel. He's the base intelligence officer. And Marcel had never seen anything like it. So they go out to the site, and believe me, I've been there. It's in the middle of nowhere. You'd never find it in a million years. I mean, there are no signs. This way, they keep it hidden for the most part. But Marcel Sr. goes out there, and this debris field just goes on. And there's like these pieces of metal, and he gathers a bunch up. He goes back, he wakes up his son, Jesse Marcel Jr., and his wife, and they handle the wreckage. They looked at this thing. And Marcel Sr. goes, you may never see anything like this. It's from a craft of another world. And so this starts the whole deal. This is Roswell is ground zero, in my opinion. And so let me show you. This is the first book right here, or the first film, Roswell Exoneration, where no other film company I'm aware of has ever done this. We sat down with Jesse Marcel Jr.'s widow, his daughter, his best friend. We had some really interesting some stuff that nobody gets to see from his widow. And the film is called Exoneration. And this is Jesse Marcel Sr., 1947, holding the pieces of a weather balloon. Wow. The face says it all. I'm in the body language, right? He's looking up at General Ramey, and he's basically going, "Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me?" Because they all handle the wreckage. How do we know that? Walter G. Haught, deathbed affidavit to be opened up only in the event of his death, who stated on the record, we all handled the wreckage, Ramey, Marcel, myself, and others. We handled it. We were sitting around a conference table. None of us had ever seen anything like it. And then the story came up to change the narrative. And that's where the paper first goes, and this is sort of ground zero with Roswell. RAAF recovers flying disc. That's on, I think, the 8th of July. On the 9th, they redact it. Nope, nothing to see here. It's just a weather balloon. And this is why Marcel is trotted out with the weather balloon, right? And he's going, no, this isn't it. This begins 80 years of cover up.
Yeah.
Basically, almost 80 years of deliberate obfuscation. And by the way, today, I don't know when this is going to be. Is this live?
This is live right now. Yeah.
Wait, tonight, you got to watch this, folks. It's Age of Disclosure. You got to watch that film. I'm setting up my camera in the front of the big screen so I can film it all, so I can do a report on it on Saturday morning, because I will. It's groundbreaking. The filmmaker Farah has access to 34 people within the government. How does that happen? He's on Brett Baer talking about his film. How does that happen? You tell me. So we went to the debris field. This is a piece of the metal that we discovered in the debris field. And we've had it analyzed under a scanning electron microscope. It's an unknown aluminum alloy. It's right between two known aluminum alloys. That's it. That's all we know. That's all we know. And this is, you can see here, that's the metal detector in the field. And then this is all in the field, folks. So, we're just going over this quickly. That's the piece of metal in my hand that came out of a debris field. You can't make this stuff up. You really can't.
Can we pause on that for just a minute? I just and so we have a unique again perspective, because we're in New Mexico. We're not far from where that picture LA just showed is about an hour and a half from us. And if you've ever been to New Mexico, it is, when LA says out in the middle of nowhere, most of the state is like that, where you can drive for a couple hours and not come to a town. And in Corona, New Mexico, where near the ranch, the ranch that he was talking about there, it's Corona, New Mexico's. There's literally like 5 buildings to the whole town. One's a gas station, one's a convenience store, and then there's like 3 other little businesses. And that, I mean, it's so LA. Why, if it was an intentional crash, and we don't know, but like, why would they pick such an unknown place? I mean, I guess you already answered that in the.
Well, it's the reason why we're there is the 509th Bombing Group. I mean, that's why they're there. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind that because we know this from that point forward, that they are obsessed with our nukes. There's this one shot. It's in my, so Gil Zimmerman and I got all these props on my desk. We have 10 films on the whole UFO phenomena. We're the only Christian ministry who's done this. Close Encounters of the First, Second, Third, and Fourth Kind, abduction phenomena, cattle mutilations, crop circles. We obviously 2 films on Roswell. Finally, what is the truth? So, there's 10 films here. We have a period of time plus the book. I mean, we can't possibly get into everything. It's just, it's voluminous. It's huge. But we know I actually show the clip in one of the films. So let's pretend this is a missile, one of our missiles. It's a nuclear missile. Okay. So it's on film. It's unbelievable. So it's a nuclear tip missile. It's a test. UFO appears. Now, the missile is flying very fast. The UFO just goes like this: zip, 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 and fires, and the missile goes down. I'm not making this up. I mean, it's like the missile is standing still, and the UFO is flying all around it and shoots the thing down. So, what are we looking at here? It's complex. In my opinion, this is the coming great deception. Jesus warns us that it'll be like the days of Noah, and it is. And folks, for those of you who are tuning in, this is the deep end of the pool. There's no doubt. if we touch on cattle mutilations or abductions or the breeding program, this is all in the deep end of the pool. What does this have to do with salvation? It has nothing to do with salvation. Absolutely nothing. Salvation is when you get baptized, you get wet. We're in the deep end of the pool. We're way over here. We're into the hidden things of the enemy, the last days. What was prophesied thousands of years ago is now unfolding. So, that's Roswell in a nutshell.
You want to go into the next one?
Sure. I was going to ask, what do you think has changed LA? So from 1947, we have this Roswell crash. 2017, all of a sudden on Tucker Carlson, we have these interviews, and New York Times breaks all these stories about UFOs. But you also said, though, why this person? Throughout the book, there's so many different names of these random people who come on these shows, and David Garush or all these people who are all of a sudden public telling us about UFOs, and it's why them and just what's changed in the last few years.
Well, first of all, most everyone who comes on the record in Congress are all military, ex-military, for the most part. I'm painting with a broad brush here, but for the most part, they are. Commander David Fravor winds up on Tucker Carlson's show. This is the first rung on the ladder of disclosure. This is the very first rung. It's 2017, and Paul McGuire in our film, and this is the very first film in the UFO disclosure. I interview Paul McGuire, and it's 2016 when I interview him. And I said, when do you think disclosure is going to happen? Now, McGuire is pretty amazing. He goes, well, if not this year, definitely by the end of 2017. So I'm interviewing him in 2016. And now it's December 2017, Tucker Carlson show. And it's a Friday night, deliberate, in my opinion. And Tucker goes, UFOs used to be the stuff of tinfoil hat wearing people and conspiracy theorists, but maybe we shouldn't think that anymore. Commander David Fravor joins us. He's a former F-18 pilot. Commander, thanks for joining us here. And it's a triptych. It's got Tucker, Commander David Fravor in the center, and over here, it's got classified film of what the gimbal and the Tic Tac. Okay, that's what they're showing, and which is incredible when you think about it. And it's the last segment on the show. I think I stated that. And Tucker's interviewing Commander David Fravor. And you got to remember, this guy's the best of the best of the best. I mean, you don't fly an F-18, okay? You just don't get the keys to the F-18 if you're Elmer Fudd. It ain't gonna happen. These plans are millions of dollars, or these plans are millions of dollars. And it's just, so this guy is the creme de la creme. And he's on Tucker. And the bottom line is, this thing, the craft, moves away from him. Let's say this is Commander David's jet. So it's down like this, and they're rotating in a circle. And so Fravor cuts across the circle. This thing shoots away at like a bullet out of a gun, 50 miles in 2 seconds. The G-forces would kill you unless, this is the work of Bob Lazar, unless you are bending space and time through some sort of gravitational wave. You're bending space and time. You're defying gravity. That's why there's no propulsion system. You're bending, and this is all theoretical, way beyond my pay grade. But I'm piggybacking, if I can use that word, on Bob Lazar, who allegedly, and I believe him because he talked about this, never changed it, decades ago in the 90s, talked about back engineering the propulsion system from a down UFO at Area S4, Area 51. So Tucker's talking to Commander David Fravor, and he says, well, what do you think this was? Is it the Russians, is it the Chaikovs, or the North Koreans? Fravor goes, no, nobody's got anything like this. It's neither of those. And he looks right at the camera. Whatever this was not from this earth. And folks, if you're listening to this, you got to understand, okay, I'm a ufologist. I get that. And you can call me any name you want to, but you can't do that with Commander David Fravor. He's not making this up. And then he's in front of a congressional hearing and basically states the same thing. So that was the first rung on the ladder of disclosure. And from there, in the book, there's only, I think, 17 rungs. Now we're up to rung number 24.
Hopefully this isn't repeating what you just said, but so 1947 was kind of the beginning, and then we just went right to 2017. So that was like 70 years
of cover-up.
So why now with all the disclosure. And you also mentioned the film that came out a week, or that's coming out tonight, Age of Disclosure on
Right.
Fox News. That the interview was 1 week ago from today with Brett Baer and the Dan guy. And so if you guys didn't catch that, LA mentioned that real quick.
Yeah,
That's
Farrah.
coming out tonight, Age of Disclosure. And
Gotta
can you
watch it.
can you mention that again? Just kind of what is it? What's happening? What's the
Well, Farrah had access to 34 congressional people in the government. How does that work? I mean, why does he get to interview those people? Why didn't I get to interview those people? Are you flipping kidding me? How does Farrah get on Brett Baer? Why are they celebrating this film? You know, this thing is all over everywhere. And the powers that be have gotten behind this. This is all deliberate. Look, why is it on Brett Baer? Brett Baer is the most conservative, stalwart, stand-up guy, straight ahead, unemotional. It's Sergeant Friday on steroids. Just the facts, ma'am. And Brett Baer is there talking to this filmmaker, Dan Farah, who's interviewed 34. You know, Marco Rubio is in there, for crying out loud. I haven't seen the film yet. I've only seen the trailer. And there are people on the film who state on the record they've seen the bodies. You understand that? They've seen live aliens, so-called live aliens. They've seen the dead ones. I mean, I haven't seen the film yet. I've watched the interviews. I've been following this like white on rice. And like I said, I'll have my camera set up. This is monumental. This is monumental. And I bully for you guys. You're one of the very few pastors who are even dealing with the subject. And bully for you, but you're doing it because this is the coming great deception. And if the church isn't raptured out of here before the revealing, it's going to change everything. You're going to look at a mass exodus from the church, unlike anything we've ever seen. I hope I'm wrong, because it's a saying I coined a while back. You know, we go up, they come down, we go up, they show up. Well, what if I'm wrong? What if they come down and then we go up? Because this is what I mean. We've got 10 films, books, and all this stuff, and I've got 45 minutes. Yeah. So this is channeled information from a woman who is channeling an entity, all right? And we're forbidden to do that because these entities that we're channeling, that the person is channeling, they're demonic, in my opinion, all right? We're not going to disparage the person who wrote the book and is channeling. We need to pray for her. She's just deceived, in my opinion. So this is what the channel information comes in. We are the Pleiadians. We are here. Humanity is learning a great lesson at this time. The lesson is, of course, to realize your godhood. Now, Pastor Jason, what does that sound like to you, to realize your godhood?
Surely that God really didn't say that, did he?
Yeah,
Right?
and if you eat the fruit, you'll become like God.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Right?
Yep. It's the same deception with
line.
different cover. Yep.
The same deal. If human beings do not change, if they do not make the shift in values and realize that without Earth they could not be here, then Earth and its love for its own initiation is reaching for a higher frequency, will bring about a cleansing to balance it once again. There is a potential for many people to leave the planet in an afternoon. You hear what I just said? There is a potential for many people to leave the planet in an afternoon. The people who leave the planet during a time of earth changes do not fit here any longer, and they are stopping the harmony of the earth. It's those pesky born-again, spirit-filled Christians who are so stuck in their belief system, who actually believe Jesus rose from the dead. Well, he really didn't. Right? That's us. I heard this 50 years ago when I was in the New Age. When I was 25 years old, I was in the New Age. I heard this exactly the same thing, that when the Space Brothers would come back, they would take the people who weren't ready for the paradigm shift in human consciousness to another place. This is channeled information, folks. They've already explained the rapture of the church. They've explained it away. I mean, I'm not making this stuff up. It's coming down.
So it seems like our take, and I think it's your take too, is that the disclosure is ramping up so much right now, especially again with the film coming out tonight, that is because Jesus is coming soon and Satan's trying. And this is like LA said, conjecture, it's an opinion, but it looks like Christ is coming soon, and this would be a really good cover up for the rapture. We hope they we go up and they come down. I hope that, and it's not the other way.
I
We don't.
do
We
too.
don't know. What did you want to go next?
LA, so throughout your book and kind of just as we're talking about this is like, who are these people and stuff? But one of the questions I had just lingering is, and I know we're kind of conjecture here, is our U.S. presidents. It seems like none of them have ever been to Area 51. It seems like all these secret places are all, or all this UFO material is held by the military industrial complex and
Yep.
not our own government.
Yep.
Just kind of your thoughts on that. Do you think we've had a president who's actually been in there, seen this stuff, and just was like, I won't say anything? Or do you think they're more controlled, like we have a shadow government that's possibly running the show?
It's both and. It's not either or. I believe that Nixon got in. I believe Nixon saw it. Why? Because he took Jackie Gleason with him, and Gleason went on the record. Now, that's all conjecture. Can't prove it. But Gleason, and of course, it was in that's it was in the Inquirer. Remember that, the old rag, the Inquirer, right? That
yeah.
part it was. Jackie Gleason claims to have seen, but he did. I mean, I actually used that in some book someplace. But I believe Nixon got in. He took Gleason with him. I do. But ever since then, I don't think any president, that's conjecture on my part, I don't think anybody's ever seen anything. I think it's controlled. It's a controlled narrative. There is a shadow government. There's no doubt about that. They are in league. And the question is, why are they trotting this stuff out now? Why is Congress, after 50 years or whatever, why are they starting to talk about the whole UFO phenomena? Why now? Because it's ramping up, and they know they can't keep the lid on it forever. Are there white hats within our government? Very possibly, but we don't know. There's certainly a lot of black hats. There certainly is a deep state. I have been threatened by them years ago for our work on the Kandahar Giant. I mean, I was threatened. My life was threatened by them. That's how the game is played. And that's how they shut you up. If you get elected in Congress and you start going a little too far one way or the other, you're contacted, just like I was contacted in 2016. And they threaten you. Do you have any kids? Well, one of them will go missing. What do you do with that, guys? And that's how I was threatened. One of them will go missing. Do you have a cell phone? Yeah. Well, they can find kitty port on it when you get arrested. So what do you do with that? Do you have a car? Yeah, I have a sports car. Well, do you have a computer? Yeah, it has a computer. Well, we can tamper with the computer. You can have a fiery crash. Oh, really? Really? And think of the people who had fiery crashes who got a little too close to something. Just saying. So, and Trump got elected. It all went away. It all went away because the Kandahar Giant now is everywhere. So they can't keep that. But that's why I got on the radar, because of our film and our research on the Kandahar Giant. And I'm not making this up. I'm not making this up.
Okay, so let's move to Ezekiel chapter 1. I see you guys in the chat asking about what are the aliens. So let's kind of move in that direction right now. What's your take on Ezekiel chapter 1, LA? What do you think it's talking about in Ezekiel chapter 1?
I think it's a craft. I think it's a craft. I think Father God is taking that baby out for a spin. It's a Sunday afternoon and he's got nothing to do. It's a day of rest and he's flying that thing around. And you see, the problem is that most of us have a very truncated view of the supernatural. So there was no technology. Well, let's walk through that. So if in the garden, you've got Adam and Eve are kicked out, you've got the cherubim guarding the gate. Well, why do they have to guard the gate? Why not the north, south, and east gate or the west gate? But they guard the east gate. Those other quadrants, north, south, and west, are not guarded. It's just the east gate. 2 cherubim. What's between the cherubim? A flaming sword. What is the flaming sword doing? It's moving every which way by itself. The cherubim aren't wielding it. A flaming sword that turns every which way. That's technology. What about in Ezekiel when the angel goes in with the what is it called? One goes in with an inkhorn and puts a mark on the forehead. The other 2 angels go in with a slaughter weapon. What's a slaughter weapon? What's a slaughter weapon? When the high priest has the 12 stones on him and they light up. That's supernatural technology that we don't understand. The Ark of the Covenant, supernatural technology. The flaming sword that runs every which way, that's supernatural technology. The New Jerusalem, which is 1,500 miles wide and 1,500, if that's not technology, I don't know what is. I mean, the engineering on that alone is like, excuse me, how's this going to work? And then it descends. It just doesn't appear. It descends. And then when you go to 2 Kings chapter 6, what is that craft, that chariot of fire above the Syrian army? You remember thousands of years ago when you're looking at this, you've got nothing in your vernacular for UFO, flying saucer. All you have is something that lights up. You've got fire and you've got a chariot. That's it. So you look above the Syrian army, there's a chariot of fire. When UFOs are there, what do they look like? They look like a chariot of fire in the vernacular thousands of years ago. So I think Father God is out for a spin on some sort of a craft. It's not, it's not a UFO as we know it. It's alive because the cherubim are there, right? And the heads, I mean, the whole thing is just like, and you remember Ezekiel's looking at this thing and he doesn't have anything in his lexicon to describe really what he's seeing. He's never seen any aerial craft before or anything like this. But it's not a UFO from some distant planet. It's not.
So let's go there. I mean, I know we're there, but we're talking about UFOs and aliens. If it's not a UFO from another planet, LA, what is it, and what are the aliens? You talked about bodies earlier. What are we talking about here?
This is a complex subject. First of all, 2 Kings shows us that the good guys have them. So have a chariots of fire above the Syrian army. Okay, we know that. So these are not extraterrestrial from some faraway distant planet. They are interdimensional beings. Now, it's interesting. Anna Paulina Luna was just all over the news talking about these are not extraterrestrial, they're interdimensional. But when pressed, she really didn't give too much of an answer. Is your channel being monitored because I'm on it? More than likely it is. Because, somebody's watching what I'm saying. And not because I'm so great, but because I'm dealing from a Christian worldview. These are not extraterrestrials. These are interdimensional entities, i.e. fallen angels that have craft. They have craft. Why do they have craft? Because there's technology. They are moving from one dimension into another dimension. Fallen angels don't need to do that. And here's why. We know that the Prince of Persia is guarding the gateway, the portal, so the angel can't get through to Daniel. Think about that. When was the last time you heard a sermon about this? I mean, this gives us a window into what's really going on. One of the few places where we actually get it. So Daniel prays 21 days later. That's disturbing in itself, right? 21 days later. I mean, can we get this a little faster, please? So 21 days later, the angel shows up. Daniel faints. Oh, gee, I wonder why. It actually says, "I fell on my face." In modern vernacular, that's a face plant. That's what it is. It's just like I crack up because the biblical narrative has this humor all the way through it. And, it's like in modern day vernacular say, and I did a face plant because that's exactly what you did. And the angel tells him something which is absolutely profound. And the implications are staggering, is the late Chuck Missler, one of his favorite lines. The implications are staggering. Thank you, Chuck. But they are, because the angel tells him, I would have gotten here sooner, but I had to go through and fight the Prince of Persia. And in order to win that little skirmish, I had to go get Michael and reinforcements, and then we fought, and then I got through, which immediately begs the question, why can't he just do an end run? Why does he have to go through this gateway, this portal that's controlled by the Prince of Persia? I mean, this is it's mystical, it's bizarre. I don't get it. We don't get it. And this is never talked about in the book of Revelation. Michael and his angels fight with the devil and they're cast to earth. Now, what are they doing? Are they thumb wrestling up there? No, they're fighting. Mm-hmm. And it's a hot engagement. I believe that angels, just like the Nephilim, can be wounded, but they can't be killed. The Nephilim, something else. They can be killed, and they were in the flood. But the spirits live on. That's another discussion. I believe if angels, both good and bad, can be wounded, you can't kill them because they're eternal beings. But somehow, just think about, walk through it. If Michael and his angels are fighting with the devil and his angels, and how does he overcome them? There's got to be, in a strategic way, they have to be overcome physically. Can they be wounded? Conjecture, I think they can. So the angel gets through to Daniel after 21 days. Why can't he just do an end run? He can't. He's got to go through this thing. Okay. So this is very complex. And we know that there's gateways and there's portals. So demons are the disembodied spirits of the fallen angels and human women. Fallen angels, human women. This is the seed war, Genesis 3:15. And they're combining to create a hybrid entity known as the Nephilim, Genesis 6. The Nephilim were on the earth in those days and also afterward, when the sons of God, which is always translated, B'nai Elohim, which always refers to the angelic host, always, 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 always. That's what it is. And by the way, when Jesus, I just love this. I just love this. Hold on, I've got to make sure I get this. Nephilim, come on, pen, work. It's just amazing. Whenever you want a pen to work, they don't work. I just got to write this note down. Nephilim, UFOs, grays. Okay, because I got to get back there. So when Jesus says to the people who were listening in earshot 2,000 years ago, hey guys, it's going to be like the days of Noah when I return. First of all, the apostles going, where are you going? What does he mean? Where is he going? He's going to return. What? They don't get it. But Jesus is saying this. But when he says the days of Noah, everyone knows exactly what he's talking about. Why? Josephus, the first century Jewish historian, tells us in his book, right, that the bones of the Nephilim are openly on display at the time of his writing. That's the first century, which means if you're going into the temple to worship, right, I bet my last dollar on this, that not in the temple proper, but outside the temple proper, the main thoroughfare, that's where those bones are, in my opinion. So everybody in earshot is listening to Jesus talking about the days of Noah. They're going, he's talking about the Nephilim over there, the giants again. They don't know what he's talking about. So in the 4th century, and I say this with a little tongue in cheek, the knucklehead, Julius Africanus, comes up with the Sephite theory and takes the Genesis 6 passage and just inserts, nope, these are the godly line of Seth, the sons of God, godly line of Seth, and the women are the hoochie mamas that came. And that's now taught in the seminaries. It's unbelievable. If you were going to take one scripture and twist it, that's the one you twist, because you'll never understand the biblical narrative, because it tells back to Genesis 3:15, which is the seed war. Now get this, all that to get to this point. The spirits of the Nephilim, and the Nephilim are the progeny of fallen angels and the human women of earth. When the flood comes, they're wiped out. When David and Goliath is a Nephilim, when they go into the promised land, well before David and Goliath, the Nephilim tribes are there. This is the culmination of the seed war, at least thousands of years ago. And the children of Israel go up against the Zanzu, the Emans, the Nephilim, the Anakim, the Rephaim, all different names, the Horites, the Perizzites, all different genetic characteristics. For instance, Anakim meets long neck. Horites are cave dwellers. They're different genetic, in my opinion, different genetic traits in each of these. They're not all giants, but many of them are. Okay, many of them are, and it's complex. And it's either they're Nephilim without souls, or it's genocide. You be the judge. It's one or the other. It's one or the other. Men, women, children, burn everything, kill all the animals and burn them. Everything is contaminated, and it's not supposed to be. Mixing of the seed. This is why it comes down like this. And by the way, that conquest of Canaan is the culmination, at least in that period of time, of the seed war, because you've got the 12 tribes, the seed of the woman. I should probably say that. Your seed, talking of a dragon, will be at war, at enmity with the seed of the woman. The one coming from the woman, the proto-evangelion, the Messiah, will crush the dragon's head. You'll bruise his heel. That's the entire Bible. So thousands of years later, here's the fruit of it, the culmination of it. In Israel, you've got the seed of a dragon, all those Nephilim tribes. And then you've got the 12 tribes. And they don't know which tribe the Messiah is going to come from. Not yet, anyway. That comes later. They're all there in the battlefield. It's the seed war. And they're going at it. I mean, it's just absolutely mind-blowing. So in the flood, the Nephilim spirits are the demons that wander the earth. How do we know that? Just once again, the book of Enoch tells us that fallen angels don't need a body because they have one. But the demons have no soul. The Nephilim are soulless. They have spirits and bodies. That's it. And their spirit takes after their father, i.e., the dragon. So you've got all these demons wandering around. A demon has to do what in order to manifest? It has to possess a person or an object or an animal, something like that. So that the enemy goes, I've got all these demons. I want to use them, but I can't. So what does he create? He creates an avatar. He creates an avatar. What is the avatar? The Greys. How do we know this? I've talked to too many abductees. Whitley Strieber talks about it. They see them in drawers. They're avatars. They're meat suits. The demon can inhabit them, and he's got worker bees. That's conjecture, because when was the last time you could sit down with Beelzebub and say, hey, what are the Greys? You can't do that. We can't do that. But after talking to enough abductees and people like Whitley Strieber, who have no Christian underpinnings, talking about opening a drawer and seeing the Greys, lifeless Grey suits, bodies in the what are they doing there? And so they're avatars, they're meat suits. The demon can inhabit them and manifest in our dimension. Deep end of the pool.
I guess on from that, there was a question in the chat that I think kind of fits in here. And it kind of goes back, but I don't want to get us off because I think we wanted to talk about abductions and demon possession.
Kind of on what we're
yeah. But one of the questions in the chat was, and you had mentioned this earlier, is the UFOs seem to be very fixated on our nuclear weapons. Mm-hmm. And so is it possible, as we see in Ezekiel 1, I'm going to read verse 19. It says, when the living creatures went, the wheels went beside them. And when the living creatures were lifted up from the earth, the wheels were lifted up. And so it seems like, okay, these, from what this is talking about in Ezekiel, it seems like these are good angels. They're not fallen. There's a wheel associated with them. And so is it a possibility that good angels perhaps are turning off these nukes or watching out to kind of preserve until the time is right for this to happen?
Well, I would say no. I think, but this is conjecture. And again, we don't know. And that's why, if you're on the other side of the aisle, you would say, see, these are our space brothers. This is why they're turning off these missiles. They don't want us to destroy themselves. Okay, that's a valid position. I understand that. But my take on it is they're obsessed with nukes because they know that that's the trigger. They're waiting. They're being held back. And this can get into a restrainer. Is the church the restrainer? Holy Spirit is the restrainer. Are we restraining them? It's complex, and we don't know. We don't know how it's really going to come down. Like we said earlier, we go up, they come down. We go up, they show up. That could be exactly it. But let me ask you something. When Hiroshima and Nagasaki begins, that's when the whole UFO, the modern day UFO collapse and phenomena, all that begins. So you have 45 Nagasaki, Hiroshima, 47 Roswell. May 14th, 1948, Israel comes back into the land. That sets the prophetic clock ticking. And from them, you get abductions, crop circles, right? The whole deal. Abductions, crop circles, UFO flaps like crazy, all this stuff. I mean, it all happens right after that, right after May 14th, 1948. Boom. The whole modern day UFO as we know it, phenomenon as we know it today, it just takes off like crazy. The breeding program takes off. Their seed will mingle with the seed of men, but they will not cleave to them, right? It's like right there, Daniel 2:43. There it is. Their seed. Whose seed? It's not the seed of men, so whose seed is it? Go back to Genesis 3:15. Right there. It's the seed of the dragon.
Can you go into that just a little bit more, LA? Why abductions? What's happening with the abductions? So you just started right there, but can you go a little bit more on that?
Yeah, I can. We have a whole film on abductions. There are 2 men and 2 women in the film. They've been abducted since they were little kids. Sperm is taken from the men, ovum is taken from the woman. See, if you don't understand the seed war, folks, if we don't understand Genesis 3:15, when we get to Daniel 2:43, we just go, let's turn the page. I have no idea what he's talking about. And I get that. I read the Bible 45 years ago. I got to Daniel 2:43. I have no idea what this means. Turn the page. Wouldn't be till 10 years later till I read Dr. I.D.E. Thomas's book, which changed my life, completely changed my life. So the seed of the dragon will be at war at enmity with the seed of the woman. The one coming from the woman, the proto-evangelion, the Messiah, will crush the dragon's head. You will bruise his heel. That's Jesus talking to the dragon and Adam and Eve in the garden, because that's who it is. It's the pre-incarnate Christ who says to the dragon, your seed, your offspring, you can do the Texas two-step around that till the stinking cows come home, but that's what it says. The seed of the dragon, they can reproduce. Don't ask me how that works. But the seed of the dragon will be at war with the enmity, at war with the seed of the woman. Then he says, this is the first prophecy of the Bible. He, the Mashiach, he will crush your head, will bruise his heel. It's the whole Bible. 2:43, Daniel 2:43. Their seed will mingle with the seed of men. When is this going to happen, Daniel? Hey, Daniel, the angel's talking to Daniel. Seal up the words in the book until the time of the end. Wait a minute. What do you mean seal up the words in the book? This is why people would read it, have no idea what they're talking about. Then he gives us what I call a supernatural clue. Men and women will run to and fro over the face of the earth, knowledge will increase. Well, men and women did not run to and fro over the face of the earth until the advent of the airplane. As we are speaking, thousands of planes are doing what? Running to and fro over the face of the earth. Knowledge increases now exponentially. And if you don't think we're in the last days, look at AI. Because we have no idea what's real and what's fabricated anymore. He's got to take us home. He has to, because we can't tell. It can fool you. It can fool me. And now they've got the AI granny. Have you seen that commercial yet? Right?
Yep.
Right? So, the AI grandmother can be with you the rest of your life, even though she died 50 years ago. Don't worry about it. Are you kidding me? Seriously? And we don't know what this thing is. We don't know. I'm doing a show over the weekend about this autistic kid who committed suicide because of AI chat. Sitting down with Chat GTP, talking to this thing who told him to commit suicide. So he did.
The abductions related to the seed war, in that there's a coming, I'm thinking Revelation 12, there's a coming war between good and bad angels.
Bingo.
Satan's building his army. Is that your take on it?
That's you're quoting Chuck Missler. When I asked him that probably 20 years ago now, without skipping a beat, Chuck said, we're mano a mano here. And Chuck goes, Satan's outnumbered 2-1. He's building an army. And this is again, as a ufologist, studying this for decades. And folks, let me just back up before I give you the punchline here with the generations. Let me write generations down so I can make sure to get back there. So when 45 years ago I came across the line, I was a rock and roll guy. I also scored for orchestras, and all of a sudden I was a musician. I became a worship leader for 25 years. All I wanted was to become a Christian recording artist. And the Lord had other plans. And just went, LA, I know you really want to, but trust me, this is where I've called you to do. Here we are, 33 films and 15 books later, right? All dealing with this stuff. And I didn't sign up for this. And I got to tell you, folks, the attack sometimes is just unbelievable. The enemy hates what we do. So the seed war, when you start hearing about the offspring, when you start hearing about the hybrid children that are being created. So women are taken, they are impregnated. In the 3rd month of their pregnancy, they are re-abducted, and the child is taken from them. That hybrid entity, which in my opinion is a modern-day Nephilim, can't survive with outside the womb. So interestingly enough, when I was doing the research on this, you could type in Google search, can cow's blood be used for interchangeably with a human? And the answer to that is yes. Now you do that, and the answer is no. How's that possible? Right? It's just like 2020. All 5 swing states switched between 12 at night and 5 in the morning. How does that work? Oh, that didn't happen. Well, I saw it happen. So don't tell me it didn't happen. I was there. And it's not the Matrix. Something weird's going on. I believe that cow's blood is being used to create artificial wombs. In our film on cattle abductions, cattle abductions, that whole deal, cattle mutilations, we talk about that you can take the parts of a cow, and probably, this is conjecture, they're creating artificial wombs for the hybrids to come into maturity. Well, the Japanese are creating artificial wombs right now in modernity. So this isn't that far-fetched. It's not far-fetched. So the generation circling back, that's why I took the note so I can get back from the rabbit trail that I just went on. So the first generation of hybrids are very sickly looking, stringy hair, big black eyes. Their bodies look very weak, emaciated. The second, this is conjecture now, because you can't go ask these guys, what are you doing? But we know that the second generation, which happens generation later, right? It's the black-eyed kids. They look normal, but they're stunted. They're stunted. They're not. They look like children, but they're not children, and the eyes are black, completely black. And they knock on your door and say weird things like, "Can we come in? Is it food time yet?" And you're completely freaked out. The third generation is what Al Matthews in our film, we really get into this. And so Al Matthews is a professional mover, and he has a contract with this woman coming in from Kuwait. He meets her, and very pretty gal, according to Al. Nothing unusual, dressed really well, pretty girl. And she's got these like really dark, almost like swimmer goggles across her eyes. It's always the eyes. And they're in the elevator going up, freight elevator going up to look at her stuff. And she leans over and whispers in his ear, he's never met this woman before. They're listening, Al. And he goes, who's listening? You know, the Grays. I know that you were taken and I've been taken, and we were supposed to meet on the ship. So he's freaked out by this, who wouldn't be? But Al is a lifelong abductee. He was taken from the time he was 6 years old. Now he's in his, late 30s, mid 40s when this happens. And he gives her his phone number, and she keeps calling him daily. Finally, after being called so many times, he gives in and goes up after work to visit her. And she's with a friend, and they're drinking wine out of these huge goblets. And all of a sudden, the deer fly lands on the side of the goblet like this. And Al goes, I'll get it. She goes, no, I have it. And she reaches with her index finger, and the fly, she doesn't grab the fly like this. It just sticks to her index finger. She brings it up to her mouth and goes and sucks it in. High strangeness. Then she takes off her glasses. He goes over, sits on Al's lap. They're face to face. He lifts up his shirt, rubs his chest, and goes, "My, you're well preserved." And at this point, I stop. I go, "Al, you've got a girlfriend. Why are you allowing this?" And like the light bulb goes off. I call it UFO brain fog, because she's around an entity and he's not thinking straight. And she goes to kiss Al. The hybrid goes to kiss Al. He pushes her away. The eyes go twang. They shapeshift. Now they're black with yellow specks in them. And she lets out the most evil laugh. He flees the site, goes to a mutual friend, Gordy Tong. They call me up. We Skype on the phone. We basically minister to him. He's not a Christian at this time. 2 weeks later, he gives his life to Jesus and becomes saved.
Praise God.
And the abductions stop. So he was abducted since he was 6 years old. He had an encounter with a hybrid being. Here's the kicker. They can't get the eyes right. Why is that? Because the eyes are the window to the soul. They can't get the eyes right. And hybrids are walking amongst us. That's a direct quote from Dr. David Jacobs' book. So, we have an hour together, whatever this podcast is, no more, because I have to get out of everything.
Okay.
And, we have 10 films, all these different, 33 films, but the 10 box set. And you can go to streaming.lamarzulli.net. You can watch any of the films there for $4.99. But this is the deep end of the pool. And that's why we made the films. That's why I wrote the book, because, I've been doing this forever. And so, some people call me the tip of the spear. I don't know what I am. I don't go by labels. I'm just a sinner saved by grace. And somehow God's called me into this position. All the glory to him. I'm just doing what I'm supposed to be doing here till, he calls us home. I think it's soon, by the way. Look, I'm not a date setter, but I'm thinking next Wednesday for sure.
We hope so. You want to start to wrap it up? Do you want to go?
Yeah, I think the final question, what's the church's response, LA? What should Christians, because like you said, this is high strangeness. It's weird, it's bizarre. I think most people will hear stuff like this and say, what in the world? But at the same time, how should the church respond?
Well, and everything I've said is I backed up biblically, haven't I? There's been no rabbits out of my hat. We talked about Daniel 2:43. We talked about Genesis 3:15. Then you can add, Jesus warns us that the elect would be deceived if that were possible. Does that sound like Winnie the Pooh? I don't think so. Whatever's coming, even the elect would be deceived. Men faint from fear for what is coming upon the earth, not what's coming up underneath it, what's coming upon the earth. What's out there? What's manifesting? If this wasn't it, I would be warning. And here's the real warning. Even the elect would be deceived if that were possible. Why does he say that? Why does he say that? And so if they come down before we go up, we're in for a world of hurt. Could this be the great falling away that First Thessalonians talks about? My good friend Mando Gonzalez says, no, it has to do with Israel. That's his opinion. He may be right. I don't know. We have to wait. We have to see. All I know is what is written will come to pass. What was foretold is unfolding, and it's unfolding. Just look at the Middle East. Look at Israel. Look at AI. Look where we are. My gosh, the earthquakes are through the roof. The threat of nukes, it's unbelievable. UFOs now are being talked about in Congress. So if you're a Christian, you need to put all this and understand that Jesus warns us of a coming great deception, that even the elect would be deceived if that were possible, that God sends them strong delusion because they did not believe the truth. What is the truth? The truth is that in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He made all things. Without him was not anything made that was made. That's the truth. But what has that been usurped with? What does the scientific community run on? What does the academic community run on? Darwinism. Everything is the Darwinian theory. That's it. What is Three-Eye Atlas? Oh, we could be visited by some sort of extraterrestrial ship. I mean, it's like, hello, McFly. What changes everything? And here's the punchline. If you have a nuclear event that goes off anywhere on the planet, it creates the greatest climate of fear that mankind has ever experienced together, collectively. And that's when they show up. And they will say, we created all life on this planet. We genetically manipulated early man. We started the world's civilizations. We started the world's religions. Now at this critical juncture, we are back to usher mankind into an age, a golden age. And by the way, some of you aren't ready for the golden age, so we're going to take you out of here so you can evolve in a place that's safe for you. And that explains the rapture of a church. So Christians need to be armed and understand that this is the deep end of the pool. This is reality, not because I say so, but because your Congress, your government is telling you that this is real. So, and some of your congressmen, congresswomen are calling it interdimensional, not extraterrestrial, which of course is what we believe. These are not extraterrestrials. They are interdimensional beings, i.e. fallen angels who are getting ready for the coming great deception. And that's it. Wake up, folks. Wake up.
Amen. Amen. We want to be ready for the return of Christ, close to God, reading our Bibles, and sharing the gospel as much as possible. Final thoughts, Keith?
That's interesting stuff. Yeah. Very interesting.
LA, thank you so much again for coming on again. You guys, we've mentioned it a few times, but lamarzulli.net, it's in the description. Also his YouTube page, we threw that in the description as well.
Thank you.
I know there were questions on there, you guys. We're going to wrap it up right now. And so go check out the website, check out the YouTube page. And if you look at the content there, it'll probably answer most of your questions. So
yeah, the 10 films will answer most of your questions. Rungs of disclosure. Further evidence. I mean, there's a corpus of work there, 33 films and 15 books. So do your homework.
Thank you guys for joining us. LA, thank you so much. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you guys. Thanks for watching. Really appreciate it, folks. We'll be back again tomorrow. Don't wait for YouTube to send you a notice. We're here 7 days a week. Look, I believe that we're in a very critical period of time, especially after this film that was released. And we just did an expose on it. I just weighed in on it. Very, very detailed aid to the disclosure. Something's about to happen. I don't know what, but I would posit that with that film, Age of Disclosure, are we getting close to seeing the actual revealing of the so-called extraterrestrial presence? Age of Disclosure basically states it, that the phenomenon is absolutely real. So the question is, what are we looking at? So I'll say it again, UFOs are real, burgeoning, not going away, but this is the coming great deception. Thanks for watching. I'll be back tomorrow.